Opposition leader Aubrey Norton calls out President Ali's disrespect toward public servants amid government's crisis of incompetence and corruption. Leader of the opposition, Aubrey Norton, issued a statement today addressing President Irfan Ali's recent conduct in a live-streamed meeting with government officials, including ministers, permanent secretaries, engineers, contractors, and consultants. Norton expressed deep concern over the president's handling of stalled and incomplete government projects, highlighting that President Ali's remarks displayed both arrogance and a lack of respect for public servants, while sidestepping the fundamental issues plaguing his administration. Clearly, President Ali is frustrated by the incompetence and corrupt nature of his government, Norton stated. But this is no excuse for him to be arrogant and disrespectful to public servants. Norton described the meeting as a rare, unscripted view into the chaotic and disorganized nature of the PPP government, pointing to the live stream as evidence of the growing internal crisis within the administration. The opposition leader warned that the government's issues extend far beyond stalled projects. They reflect a fundamental collapse in the procurement and project management systems, placing billions of taxpayers' dollars at risk. Instead of addressing the root causes of these issues, Norton argued, President Ali resorted to public outbursts, insults, and threats aimed at hard-working public servants, who bear limited responsibility for the government's failures. The president's juvenile behavior was misdirected and only served to undermine the morale of our dedicated professionals, Norton emphasized. Norton further criticized the PPP government's awarding of inflated contracts to unqualified contractors, many of whom are repeatedly allowed to fail deadlines and quality standards. This, he said, exemplifies the endemic corruption within the PPP administration. Contractors who have performed poorly continue to receive contracts, while the monitoring and evaluation systems have become politicized and dysfunctional. Referring to the recent record budget allocations, Norton urged President Ali to provide a detailed public report on the status and performance of all major government projects. He questioned whether Guyanese taxpayers are receiving any value for the $700 billion earmarked for capital works in 2024, adding that the country deserves to know how its resources are being spent, especially amid widespread complaints of mismanagement and delayed projects. Norton reiterated his call for President Ali to take responsibility for the management of public funds, asserting that real change requires a transparent, accountable, and non-corrupt administration focused on efficient, people-centered development. He concluded, the live-streamed meeting served as little more than a political ploy and scapegoating tactic. The country deserves better leadership, one that is respectful, accountable, and puts the people of Guyana first.
Clearly, President Ali is no doubt frustrated by the incompetence and corrupt nature of his government. But that is no excuse for him to be arrogant and disrespectful to public servants. It is with great concern and alarm that Guyanese watched the live stream meeting between President Irfan Ali with government ministers, permanent secretaries, engineers, contractors, and consultants. The president summoned the officials, we learn, to vent his frustration over the large number of incomplete and stalled projects across government ministries. Guyanese were able to witness the president and the PPP government in their true colors: incompetent, disorganized, and disordered, and arrogantly disrespectful. The public saw firsthand the level of chaos that has become endemic within the entire PPP administration. The entire public procurement system is in a planning and execution crisis. Hundreds of billions of dollars of the people's money are at stake and are going to waste. For starters, instead of seeking to analyze the root causes of the problem and proposing solutions, President Ali chose to launch a disgraceful barrage of insults, put-downs, and threats on the public servants, who are at least to be blamed for the government's outright inability to plan and manage. His juvenile behavior was misdirected and only served to undermine the morale of our dedicated professionals. President Ali and his government must take full responsibility for these massive failures in the management of public funds. To fix such failures, a clean and competent government would have spent time to review system capacities, resources availability, its policies and approaches, legislation and institutions, the performance of supply chains, operations bottleneck, and the role and extent of corruption. But the corrupt PPP is no such government. Obviously, the PPP is in a state of panic as the inflated contracts awarded to their friends, families, and favorites fail to meet deadlines and quality standards and to satisfy the Guyanese people. Contractors who have performed poorly over the years continue to get contracts. Only President Ali and his government can be blamed for that. Persons with no experience in construction of large infrastructure continue to win contract awards through corrupt NPTAB. The monitoring and evaluation system has become politicized and dysfunctional. This growing wastage of financial resources through negligence, incompetence, and corruption is one of the main symptoms of the natural resource curse. The more oil revenues the government spends, the greater will be this curse. President Irfan Ali must shift his focus from finger pointing and blame throwing to confronting the real source of the problem. The true source of this crisis lies with the government itself, particularly with its corrupt practices and with the ministers who have consistently failed to perform and deliver on their mandates. Normally, one would issue a call for them to be fired and replaced. But with this PPP regime, should that occur, they would only be replaced with political cronies just as useless and crooked as the president said. Let us remind Guyanese that close to Guyana, 700 billion was allocated for capital works in 2024. We call on the president to submit for public scrutiny a written report on the status of all large government projects. Where is the value for money of all this allocation? What are the checks to prevent an end of year rush to disperse the entire 2024 budget sums? Where are the reforms to the public procurement system? President Ali must fully account to the nation. Alas, we harbor no hope that anything will change, knowing how the PPP operates. The entire live stream meeting served merely as a political ploy and a scapegoating tactic. The country deserves better. The country deserves leadership that is respectful, accountable, effective, and puts people first and at the center of development. The time for endless failures, diversionary politics, and massive